Welcome. I'm Windsor Taylor, the Access VSA programmer at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, located in Washington, D.C. I'm excited to share a bit more about our 2025 Access VSA Emerging Young Artists program and to help answer any questions you may have about the application process. A quick note that this program is funded by the Rehabilitation Services Administration, grant number H421F240164. However, the content does not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education. You should not assume endorsement by the federal government. It's important to first share a bit about the program. Emerging Young Artists, or EYA, launched in the year 2000. Since that time, we've worked with over 270 artists from 44 U.S. states and territories. This program is open to young disabled artists ages 16 to 25 residing in the United States. We use the Americans with Disabilities Act as our guide for the definition of disability. Disability is a broad umbrella that covers a variety of lived experiences. Eligible artists may have apparent, physical, and/or sensory conditions, as well as less apparent conditions like anxiety, ADHD, depression, chronic illness or pain, PTSD, OCD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, neurodivergence, and more. An adjudication panel of industry professionals will select 15 award winners. These winners will receive a financial award, access to exclusive workshops, a trip to Washington, D.C., and have one of their submitted pieces featured in an exhibition at the Kennedy Center later this year. Artists must be available for program activities occurring virtually on May 3rd, May 17th, June 14th, and must be able to travel to Washington, D.C., June 17th through 21st of 2025 for in-person activities. If all that sounds good to you, how do you apply? Our application portal is hosted through Call for Entry, which is also known as CAFE. We'll drop the link to the application in the chat now. The application will ask for some basic information about you, your name, your address, your phone number, and responses to 4 short answer questions that help us get to know you better, and links to a portfolio of 3 to 5 pieces of artwork. We ask that artists prioritize pieces that speak to the catalyst theme. How does your artistic identity intersect with your disability identity to create something new? All applications are due Friday, February 28th of 2025. Let's take a look at the platform with some screenshots. This image shows the full call on CAFE. Again, we'll drop the link to this in the chat. Please be sure you take time to scroll down all the way and read it all carefully before you start an application, as it outlines the details on artist eligibility, accepted media, and size limits on works that may be considered. Once you've read all of that eligibility information and have determined you want to move forward, click the Apply Now button. If you've never used CAFE before, you'll create an account using your email address. Once you've created your applicant account, the system will prompt you to add media. This screenshot demonstrates the page that prompts you to add media to your full portfolio on CAFE. These images can be used for any call that you apply for on this platform. For our EYA program, these media files can be images or videos. Please note that the platform has limits on the file type and file sizes. Contact Call for Entry directly if you have any technical issues with your uploads. For each piece of media that you add, the platform requires you to upload details about the artwork size, the year it was created, if it's available for purchase, and so on. For the purposes of the EYA program, we are most interested in the piece's size, the materials used, and the year created. Now, that said, if you intend to use the same artwork for other calls on Cafe, there might be other programs that prioritize other information. So, personally, I advise folks to include as much information as possible. It's better to have more details than not enough. Also, please, I will say that again, please accurately measure your pieces. This really helps our exhibit designer, and it helps provide context for the adjudicators when they're reviewing your portfolio of artwork. Another item to note, our call requires images of 3 unique pieces. While you can include more than one angle of a work, you must complete all of this information for each media file uploaded. And we must have at least 3 different pieces for our adjudicators to consider your application complete. If the application is not complete, it will not be adjudicated, and no additional feedback on your application will be able to be provided. Save yourself the agony. Upload at least 3 different pieces from the start. You can pick which pieces you include in your application once you're inside the call itself. As I mentioned before, the application asks you to provide some basic information about you, your address, your preferred email, your phone number, and 4 short answer questions. You'll have 300 words to answer each question. The adjudicators use these questions to get to know you better as they work to create a full cohort of artists. So let's look at each of those questions in detail and talk a little bit more about how they are used. So the first question is, tell us about yourself. What do we need to know about you? This is really your opportunity to introduce yourself to the adjudicators. The information you choose to include in this answer is totally up to you, but I would suggest that you start by thinking about what kind of information you would include in an artist biography, or how you introduce yourself to people at networking events or art opens. Question number 2, tell us about your art. What is your artistic process? How and why do you create? If you're not sure where to start your answer to this particular question, and you already have an artist statement that you've prepared for a previous exhibit or maybe even a class in school, look at that artist statement as a resource and get some ideas for this response. We want to know why you're an artist and how you embrace and express this identity through your creative process. You don't have to give us an exact step-by-step process about making a piece. First, I draw a pencil outline, then I add a base layer of paint, then I mix other paint. We don't need to know that. But if you have a super unique approach, you might want to share it. For example, maybe you're a photographer who uses physical film and still has a dark room that you use to develop the images that you then scan and manipulate using a specific digital program. That's interesting. But we would also want to know why you use this method. Is it related to your disability identity? Is there something about that process that speaks to you as an artist? Tell us more about that. Question number 3, what unique perspective would you bring to this group? This really expands on your answer to question number 1 and is kind of asking you what makes you, you. So, what perspective would you provide in a conversation or in workshops? This could be something related to your disability or gender identity. Maybe it's about your hometown or how that's different from where you live now. Maybe you grew up in a rural area and now live in a city environment. Maybe it's about your family or the way you were brought up. Maybe it's about your artistic identity and how that process is incredibly unique, like we were talking about before. Or maybe it's even about your experience as an artist. Maybe you've worked at a gallery, or maybe you curated a show before and you have experience as a curator. This helps us learn who you are, and it can really lead, it helps us learn who you are. It also helps us learn where you can lead in a conversation. It also alerts us where you might be looking to learn or fill in gaps of your knowledge. And it's just another tool our adjudicators use as they endeavor to create a full complementary cohort. Question number 4. What are your future plans, and how would this program help you achieve your goals? So your answer to this question should include your artistic career dreams. What do you want to learn from our workshops? Are there ways that connecting to this particular network of disabled artists or resources would help you enhance your plan? Let us know what about this program would help you accelerate to reach your ultimate career goals. Okay. After you've made it through those short answer questions, you'll input some additional details about your birth date, your disability identity, etc. The disability identity categories that are listed are based on those that are used by vocational rehabilitation. If you're not sure what to select, you can use the optional question to provide more specificity about your disability identity. Finally, you'll see where you can select the media samples you want us to consider for this call. These are from the media samples that you uploaded to your CAFE applicant profile before you started the application. Again, the theme for this year's exhibit is Catalyst, which explores the combination of your disability and artistic identities to spark something new. This is an intentionally broad theme. Select the works of art that best represent you as an artist and where you see your work going or developing in the future. Again, make sure you select pieces that do not exceed our exhibit size limit or use any of the prohibited materials. Remember that your pieces must have been made in the last 3 years and after the onset of your disability. You must include 3 different pieces of artwork to have a complete application, and you may include up to 5 media files. Before we open it up to your questions, I'll answer some of the top things we get asked every year. First, how do you define disability? Again, we use the Americans with Disabilities Act as our guide for the definition of disability. That means that disability is a broad umbrella that covers a variety of lived experiences. So eligible artists may have apparent, physical, and/or sensory conditions, as well as less apparent conditions like anxiety or ADHD, depression, chronic illness or pain, PTSD, OCD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, neurodivergence, and more. Okay. Another question we get asked a lot: do I have to create new artwork for this call? No. If you want to use this as an inspiration point to create something new, that's awesome. We'll accept it. If you have existing work that you think represents your current artistic aesthetic, that's also awesome, and we'll accept it. Just make sure that the work has been completed in the last 3 years and after the onset of your disability and fits our exhibition size limits without including any prohibited items. Can I submit 3 photos of one piece? So the short answer is you must submit 3 different pieces. That said, the portal will allow you to submit up to 5 media files. So let's say that you had something like a sculpture or a jewelry piece that looks very different from different angles. You could use 2 of your 5 media files to demonstrate those 2 different viewing angles of the same piece, as long as you also include images of at least 2 other pieces. Another question we get asked a lot is, what are those workshops about? Uh, we don't focus these workshops on art making. We figure you've got that part down. The workshops focus on building skills that disabled artists need to have a successful career. This could include things like professional writing, financial literacy, especially when it comes to ABLE accounts and SSI and SSDI. We cover how to market yourself and your work, and what artists need to know about artificial intelligence and US copyright. Those are just some of the examples. And then, of course, the most popular question: when will I know if I've selected? When do I know if I got in? Well, we will let everyone know the status of their application by Friday, April 11th. Okay, so that's what I have for you right now. It's now your turn. So what questions do you have about the program or the application process itself? I'll give you just a couple moments to pop those in the Q&A or the chat. Okay, I have a question that came in through the Q&A. I'll read it aloud. I support a young adult with a moderate intellectual disability who requires support in applying, but she's very interested in EYA. Is there anything to consider in terms of her support and what we can do to help her in the application process? You certainly are welcome to help that person complete the application process itself. If there's a different format that you think would be helpful for you to use while you are assisting this individual, contact me and I can provide that. So for instance, if it would be helpful to have a printed copy of all of the questions that she may be asked so that you can review those together ahead of time, we're happy to provide that. And my contact information will be shared at the end of this presentation. Similarly, if you come across any other questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. We're here to help through the entire process. Okay. Looks like we have another question here. I work in multiple media. Can I submit a variety of pieces in my portfolio? For example, a painting, a piece of photography, and a sculpture. Absolutely, yes. We want your portfolio of work to represent who you are as an artist. So if who you are as an artist is a person who works in multiple forms, show us that. That said, if that's not who you are, don't feel like you have to show us that variety. Show us the variety in your photography or your painting or your drawing or your jewelry making. Show us what it is that is your art and makes you unique. So make sure your portfolio is reflective of the work that you're currently doing and where you hope it will go in the future. See, here's another question here about disability identity. So it reads, I have multiple disabilities. Can I select more than one category on the application? Yes, you may. The application will allow you to select multiple disability identities. And again, if there's ever a question or concern, you're not sure in what category it fits, you can always use that. Please provide more information and self-describe in that. Another question about portfolio. I'm not sure which pieces to include in my portfolio. Do you have any advice? Again, I think your portfolio tells the story of who you are as an artist. So what our adjudicators want to see is what your artistic aesthetic looks like and where it's going, right? Artists change and evolve over time. And as we're thinking about, what you want your career to look like, you may not be able to fully guess where you're going to be in 10 or 15 years, but you can tell us how your artwork is evolving now. So show us the work that you're most proud of. I would say if you don't know where to start, think back over the last couple years, and what was a piece that really made you happy, that you were happy to share with other people, that you wanted as many people to see and experience. That's a really great starting point because there's a story there, and that probably is a piece that feels authentic to you. The other thing I would encourage you to consider is that this portfolio, if you're selected to be part of the cohort, the piece that will be part of the exhibit at the Kennedy Center this summer will be one of these pieces that you put in your portfolio. So you can also think about it that way. How would you want yourself to be introduced to the arts community and to the arts world? What's a piece that you think really embodies the story of you as an artist? We have a question here about ASL. Reads, ASL is my primary language. Is there a way I can submit video answers for the short answer questions? The answer is yes. There is a way you can do it on Cafe as it currently exists. You would upload a media file, just like you do for your portfolio of artwork. That is your video answering the questions. And then you would just include it in your portfolio at the bottom with a little note in the short answers, see video below. That said, that's a very cumbersome workaround. So you can also contact me after this session is over, and we can talk about finding an alternative way for you to submit that if that's easier. It looks like we have answered all the questions that have come through right now. Obviously, there may be other things that come up. So we have just a couple more resources for you before we conclude this evening. Sorry. One question came in at the very end. The question here is, I can't afford to travel to DC in June. Do you provide financial support? Yes, absolutely. The program covers your travel to and from DC for program activities. And if your particular disability identity requires a personal care assistant as part of your access needs, there are funds available to pay for the travel of that personal care assistant as well. Excellent question. Okay, so then just a couple of other supports on the tech side of things. So the folks at Call for Entry are absolutely amazing. Their website offers an extensive resource of answers to frequently asked questions. We'll drop this link in the chat as well as listing it on this slide. And this is where you can go to find answers to a lot of the most frequent questions they get from artists who are filling out applications. There are also a lot of really great resources, including recordings of webinars from Cafe and the Creative West team that are available on YouTube. So you can also check there for specific answers to some of the tech questions. If you run across any issues with the functionality of the platform itself, contact Call for Entry's team. They really are there to help. They're quick to respond and they're super insightful. The Contact Us page is relatively easy to find, but we've also included the link on this slide so that you have it easy to find. Finally, thank you so much for joining us today. As you're working on your application, if you come across additional questions or concerns, please contact us. We're here to help you. Otherwise, my best piece of advice is start your application early. February 28th sounds so far away, but it will be here before you know it. Give yourself plenty of time to submit the best examples of your artwork for your portfolio. We're excited to receive your applications, and we truly wish you all the best. Thank you so much.